Grace and peace from Grace Church on the Hill in Toronto. I'm sure you've had plans made for the summer, but so many of our plans have had to be set aside and postponed during this pandemic shutdown. It's been an exercise in patience, if nothing else, but also in what stirs us. It's a time of reflection and self-learning, self-knowledge. My wife Jeannie and I were about to celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary shortly, and we had plans made. We were going to have a big party with friends and relatives to mark the occasion. We had a trip planned, and all that, of course, has had to be postponed, set aside, delayed. It's understandable. So much of life is being postponed, delayed, almost as if we're at a standstill until we get a green light and then our plans can go forward. So it's a testing time, but it's a time that shows us that we must live in faith and hope and trust. Those three are related: faith and hope and trust, all related. This time we have to trust our leaders, don't we? We listen almost daily to the Premier, to the Prime Minister, to public health experts. We give them our trust. We have to let them guide us into the future. Trust is such an important part of life, of all aspects of life. It's part of the fabric of life. Children have to trust their parents at this time. They have to. We have to trust those who have our best instincts in mind. We have to trust one another. And when trust is broken, when there is false news, conspiracy theories, all these things to break trust, it makes it more difficult to move forward collectively with the common good. I was thinking of trust and our 40 years together when finally, after more than 2.5 months without a haircut, I asked my wife, would she trim my locks? Handing her the scissors and a razor for the back. I'm sure there are many occasions over 40 years of marriage when she'd be perfectly happy to cut my throat, but I trusted her, and she just trimmed my hair, and I thanked her. In fact, she got it started because she asked me, she trusted me to just clip the back of her hair because it was bothering her as it grew down her neck. Well, trust comes in many forms. We trust the unseen God who we believe, in whom we live and move and have our very life and being, the living God. We don't trust the doctrines or the dogmas about God. We trust what is beyond them, the reality. And that is the heart of our Christian faith, is this basic relationship, this essential relationship of trusting the goodness of God, and that God has finally our welfare in mind out of love. I was thinking about trust, and then I picked up a book by David Johnson, the 28th Governor General of this country. David Johnson is a very distinguished man, a lawyer who went to Harvard and Cambridge, became the principal of McGill University, and then the Governor General of this country. He was born in Sudbury, Ontario, and his book refers to his formation, his building of trust. Let me share some of the words of David Johnson with you. Christianity has been my rock for my whole life. I grew up in Northern Ontario in the Anglican tradition and went to my neighborhood church every Sunday As a choir boy and altar boy, I learned the gospel, absorbed the wisdom of the prophets, and sang hymns that expressed the trials and triumphs of a godly life. If my schools nurtured my curiosity and my community gave me support, my church made it possible for me to imagine a world and an approach to life that was greater than my own, and yet one that stemmed from my own. My faith remained strong as I reached adulthood and left my hometown of Sault Ste. Marie to attend university. While at Harvard, I took the short course at Episcopal Theological College, which adjoined the university campus, to become a lay reader. In the Anglican Church, a lay reader is a person who is qualified to preach and conduct some religious services, but not licensed to officiate over baptisms, marriages, funerals, and Holy Communion. This knowledge gave me yet another window to the world. For several summers, I filled in on Sundays for the Anglican clergy who served in several First Nations reserves and 2 rural parishes near my hometown. These services were my first in-depth encounters with First Nation people, opening my eyes still again to a world and approach to life that were broader than my own, and yet a world and approach that stemmed from my own and were recognizable in my own. Faith was and remains my passport to these experiences and understanding. Through the practice of my faith, I realize my limitations and even my powerlessness in some circumstances. I gain a willingness to explore and understand better the condition and lives of others. Most importantly, faith enables me to move beyond my individualism and recognize my obligation to my community, country, and world. It teaches me to understand that I am more than my own success and happiness. My success and happiness is closely and irrevocably tied to the success and happiness of the world around me and the people who make up that world: family, friends, neighbors, and fellow citizens. That is the power I have discovered in finding and having faith. In equipping me with this understanding and approach, I believe my faith has made me more worthy of trust from others. It has also enabled me to spot others who are worthy of my trust. Queen Elizabeth II is one of these people. I'm not alone in making this assessment. Her Majesty is one of the most trusted public figures in the world. It has been for much of her adult life. I believe much of the trust people have for Her Majesty stems from her faith, which she displays publicly and with dignity. The French novelist Victor Hugo wrote that a faith is a necessity, and therefore woe to anyone who believes in nothing. I say, woe to those who believe in nothing beyond their individual world. So find some faith. I found mine in the Anglican Church. Interesting. Trust, faith, hope. Inescapable parts of the living of this life. And particularly now at this time when we're reaching deep, not only to hang on, but to flourish and to deepen our lives and the lives of others, to reprioritize. It's a time for all of us to think about the meaning of faith and what we trust and who we trust. Grace and peace to you.